The giant screens in Times Square went dark on a busy Tuesday afternoon. Moments later, they flickered back to life, but instead of advertisements, they displayed a face that wasn't human. The creature had gray skin, large black eyes, and no visible nose. People stopped walking and stared upward, their mouths hanging open. People of Earth. The alien spoke in perfect English, its voice echoing from every speaker and device. We are the first fleet of the Star Empire. Your planet now belongs to us. Submit or face destruction. In offices around the world, computers displayed the same message. Cell phones, tablets, and even old radios broadcast the aliens' words. There was no escape from the transmission. Dr. James Walker watched the message from his laboratory at the Global Defense Institute. Unlike most people who panicked or froze in fear, he grabbed his tablet and started recording. Something about the alien's demonstration of power caught his scientific interest. The alien continued its message. To prove our superiority, we will now demonstrate our weapons. The screen split to show a military base in the desert. A bright beam of purple light shot down from the sky, turning tanks and buildings into molten metal. The destruction was absolute. Walker's eyes narrowed as he watched the energy weapon at work. He zoomed in on his tablet, focusing on how different materials reacted to the blast. Most things melted instantly, but there was something odd about how the beam interacted with a pile of industrial waste near the base. You have 30 Earth days to surrender control to the Star Empire, the alien concluded. Resist, and your civilization will burn. The transmission ended, leaving the world in chaos. Military leaders rushed to their bunkers. Politicians called emergency meetings, and civilians emptied store shelves in panic. But in his quiet lab, Walker rewound his recording again and again. He focused on that brief moment when the energy beam hit the waste pile. While everything else turned to slag, that particular spot seemed to disperse the energy differently. Tom. He called to his assistant. Bring me the analysis of last month's failed experiment batch. Tom rushed over with a thick folder. The carbon fiber mixture that didn't work. The one that's filling up our waste storage. Exactly, Walker said, his eyes bright with excitement. He spread the papers across his desk, comparing them to the frozen image on his tablet. Look at this. Our failed batch had an unusual molecular structure. We thought it was useless because it wouldn't hold a shape, but what if that's exactly what makes it special? Tom leaned closer, realization dawning on his face. The way it scattered the light in our tests could be the same way it would scatter an energy weapon. Walker finished. We need to run some tests. Now, for the next 12 hours, while the world outside descended into panic, Walker and his team worked nonstop. They pulled samples from their waste storage and subjected them to various energy sources, measuring how the material reacted. By morning, Walker stood before the Institute's board of directors. His clothes were wrinkled, and his eyes were red from lack of sleep, but his voice was steady. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, pointing to a video screen showing their test results, what we considered garbage might just save humanity. This material doesn't just block energy weapons, it renders them completely useless. The board members whispered among themselves as Walker continued. We can produce this material cheaply and in large quantities. We already have the facilities. What we thought was a manufacturing defect is actually the key to our survival. The head of the board stood up. Dr. Walker, are you absolutely certain about this? Walker nodded. The aliens showed us their best weapon, thinking it would frighten us into submission. Instead, they revealed their greatest weakness. We have 29 days until their deadline. If we act now, we can protect our major cities and military installations. But will it be enough? Someone asked. Walker smiled for the first time since the alien transmission. They think they're coming to fight a primitive species. Instead, they're about to learn that humanity's greatest strength isn't in our weapons. It's in our ability to turn our mistakes into miracles. The board voted unanimously to begin immediate production. As Walker left the meeting, he looked up at the sky through a window. Somewhere up there, the aliens were preparing for what they thought would be an easy conquest. They had no idea that their greatest advantage was about to become worthless, all because of a laboratory accident and human ingenuity. The laboratory hummed with activity as Walker and his team worked around the clock. Massive screens displayed molecular structures while machines whirred, testing sample after sample of their accidental discovery. "The base structure is changing again," Tom called out, pointing to a monitor showing their latest test. The material they now called Walker's shield shifted and flowed like liquid metal, but wasn't actually metal at all. "That's exactly what we want," Walker replied, making notes on his tablet. "The molecular instability is what makes it work. When energy hits it, the structure absorbs and disperses the impact across billions of tiny particles." Their breakthrough came when testing the material against different energy types. A junior scientist named Robert had suggested using increasingly powerful lasers to simulate alien weapons. Each time they increased the power, the material simply adapted and dispersed the energy more efficiently. "It's like throwing a rock into a pond," Robert explained to military officials who visited the lab. "The energy spreads out in waves until it's harmless." He demonstrated by firing the industrial laser at a thin sheet of Walker's shield. The beam hit the surface and disappeared, spreading out in rippling patterns before fading away. The military leaders were impressed, but one general raised a crucial question: "Can we mass-produce this fast enough?" Walker stepped forward. "That's the best part," he said, leading them to another section of the lab. "Remember, we discovered this by accident. It was a waste product from our carbon fiber production. Every major manufacturing plant already has the basic ingredients and equipment. We just need to change the process slightly." He showed them a computer simulation of the production line. "Instead of trying to make the molecular structure stable, we deliberately destabilize it. The flaw becomes the feature." But their work wasn't without problems. During one test, they discovered that the material degraded when exposed to direct sunlight for too long. Walker's team worked frantically to solve this issue, knowing the aliens could use this weakness against them. "We need to add a UV-resistant layer," Walker said after another failed outdoor test. He hadn't slept in 36 hours, but his mind was sharp with determination. "The material works perfectly in controlled conditions. We just need to protect it from solar radiation." The solution came from an unexpected source. Mary, the lab's cleaning staff member, overheard their discussion while emptying trash bins. "What about sunscreen?" she suggested hesitantly. "If it blocks UV rays on skin, couldn't you make something similar for your shield?" Walker stared at her for a moment before breaking into a wide grin. "Mary, you're brilliant." He rushed to his computer, typing rapidly. "We can create a protective layer using similar compounds. It won't affect the energy-dispersing properties, but it will prevent solar degradation." The next series of tests proved their modified version worked perfectly. They could now produce sheets of Walker's shield that remained stable under any conditions. The material could be sprayed onto surfaces, woven into fabric, or molded into shapes. As news of their progress spread, other scientists around the world began contributing ideas. A team in Japan found a way to make the material transparent. German engineers developed a method to apply it to existing structures without damaging them. Indian researchers discovered how to make it self-repairing. 20 days before the alien deadline, Walker stood in front of the United Nations through video conference. "We've done it," he announced to representatives from every nation. "The material can be produced anywhere with basic manufacturing capabilities. We've uploaded the formula and production methods to a secure server. Every country can begin making it immediately." Questions poured in from the delegates. Will it really work against alien weapons? How much can we make in time? Can it be destroyed? Walker answered each question patiently. "We know it works against every type of energy weapon we can create. We can produce enough to protect our major cities and military installations before the deadline. And while it can be damaged by physical weapons, it automatically reforms its molecular structure within seconds. He paused, looking at the worried faces on his screen. The aliens think they're coming to fight a primitive species, but humanity has something they don't understand. Our greatest breakthroughs often come from our mistakes. We just need to work together, and we can turn their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. As the UN session ended, Walker looked at his tired but determined team. They had found humanity's shield. Now they just had to deploy it before the aliens arrived. Factory smokestacks across the globe belched steam into the sky as manufacturing facilities worked at full capacity. The world had never seen such unified industrial effort since World War II. Every major production line had been converted to create Walker's shield. In Detroit, auto plants stopped making cars and started producing sheets of the protective material. Steel mills in Pittsburgh melted down scrap metal to create the base compounds needed for production. Chemical plants in Germany switched from making plastics to mixing the special compounds that gave the shield its unique properties. We're at 15% of our global protection goal, Walker announced during the daily progress meeting. With 19 days left, we need to move faster. He pointed to a world map showing protected areas in green and vulnerable zones in red. Most of the map was still red. The pressure was immense. Workers pulled double shifts, scientists refined the production process, and military personnel helped distribute the material. Every hour counted. In China, a breakthrough came when engineers found a way to spray the material directly onto buildings using modified firefighting equipment. Entire city blocks could now be covered in hours instead of days. The discovery spread quickly, and soon cities worldwide adopted the technique. But problems arose. Some batches of Walker's shield failed quality tests, forcing entire production runs to be scrapped. A factory in Brazil exploded when workers rushed the delicate mixing process. The incident served as a harsh reminder that speed couldn't come at the cost of safety. "We can't afford mistakes," Walker told his global team during an emergency video conference. "One bad batch could leave millions vulnerable. Double-check everything." The public watched as their cities transformed. Buildings took on a subtle shimmer as they were coated with Walker's shield. Military vehicles gained a strange, rippling appearance. Even clothing manufacturers began incorporating thin layers of the material into everyday garments. 16 days before the deadline, satellites detected movement in the outer solar system. The alien fleet was moving closer. "They're testing us," a general said during a security briefing, "watching to see how we respond." Long-range scans showed hundreds of ships, all carrying the energy weapons that had seemed so terrifying just weeks ago. Walker stood at his laboratory window, watching as workers sprayed his invention onto the building across the street. The material flowed like water but clung like paint, creating an invisible barrier that could stop the most powerful energy weapons known to exist. "Dr. Walker," Tom burst into the office. "The Russians just made a breakthrough. They found a way to make the shield regenerate faster after impact. They're sharing the formula now." This was how humanity would survive, Walker realized. Not through one person's discovery, but through global cooperation. Every nation adding their expertise, every scientist building on others' work, every factory sharing their improvements. With 12 days remaining, the first major city announced full protection coverage. New York's buildings, infrastructure, and population centers were now shielded. Tokyo followed 2 days later, then London, Moscow, and Beijing. Military installations worldwide were hardened with triple layers of protection. Vital infrastructure, power plants, water treatment facilities, communication centers received special attention. Protective suits were distributed to emergency responders and military personnel. 10 days left, Walker noted in his journal. "We're at 60% coverage globally. The remaining time will be tight, but we'll make it." He looked at a sample of his creation under a microscope. The molecular structure shifted and flowed, never staying still, just like the humanity that created it. Reports came in from around the world. South America had protected its major cities. Europe was nearly completely covered. Africa's industrial centers worked non-stop to shield the continent. Australia had not only protected itself, but was sending excess production to help Pacific Island nations. Walker's shield had become more than just a defensive technology. It had become a symbol of human ingenuity and cooperation. Former enemy nations shared resources and knowledge. Political rivals worked together toward a common goal. The alien threat had united humanity in ways no one thought possible. As the deadline approached, Earth changed from a vulnerable target to a hardened fortress. The aliens would arrive expecting to find a primitive world ready for conquest. Instead, they would face a united planet protected by its own discarded mistakes, turned into its greatest defense. Walker smiled as another factory report arrived. Humanity wasn't just ready for a fight. They had already won the first battle without firing a shot. The alien fleet appeared in Earth's orbit exactly on schedule. Thousands of massive ships darkened the sky, their hulls gleaming with a metallic purple sheen. People watched from behind shielded windows as the invaders took position above major cities. The alien commander's face appeared on screens worldwide, just as it had 30 days ago. Your time has expired. We see no signs of surrender. Now, witness the price of defiance. Purple beams of energy lanced down from the ships, targeting New York first. The aliens expected to see buildings melt and streets turn to slag. Instead, their weapons hit Walker's shield and dissipated in rippling waves of light. The city remained untouched. In his command center, Walker watched the energy readings. "The shield is holding perfectly," he announced to military leaders. "Energy dispersion is exactly as predicted. Their weapons are useless." The aliens, confused by their failure, increased power to maximum. More beams struck Earth's cities, but Walker's shield absorbed and dispersed everything. Some areas even showed stronger protection after the attacks, as the shield material adapted to the energy patterns. "Impossible." The alien commander's voice cracked with disbelief. "Your primitive world couldn't have developed this technology." Earth's response came in the form of conventional weapons. Fighter jets, protected by Walker's shield, launched attacks against the alien ships. Missiles passed through their energy shields, designed to stop energy weapons, not physical projectiles, and struck with devastating effect. The aliens had become so dependent on energy weapons that they had neglected basic armor. Their ships, while advanced, were vulnerable to Earth's primitive weapons. The first alien vessel exploded in orbit, raining shielded debris over the Pacific Ocean. "They never expected physical weapons," a general said, watching radar screens track the battle. "They thought energy weapons were the peak of military technology. They forgot the basics." The alien fleet tried to adapt, firing physical weapons of their own, but centuries of focusing on energy weapons had left these systems neglected and inferior. Their projectiles bounced off Earth's shielded defenses, while human missiles continued to find their marks. Walker watched from his laboratory as explosions lit up the sky. The aliens had brought their strongest weapons to fight a supposedly primitive world, only to find their entire military doctrine rendered obsolete by a manufacturing accident. Multiple ships approaching the atmosphere. A military officer reported, "They're trying to land troops." But even this desperate move failed. The alien soldiers, wearing energy-based personal shields, found themselves vulnerable to simple bullets. Their energy weapons splashed harmlessly off humans protected by Walker's shield. In orbit, the alien fleet began to retreat. Ship after ship jumped away, leaving their ground forces stranded. The mighty invasion force that had expected to conquer Earth in hours was running from the very primitives they had meant to subjugate. The battle lasted less than 6 hours. When it ended, Earth had destroyed 30 alien ships, captured hundreds of alien soldiers, and suffered 0 civilian casualties. Not a single building protected by Walker's shield had taken damage. In his lab, Walker examined captured alien weapons. Their entire civilization built itself around energy weapon technology, he explained to military officials. They never imagined someone would find a way to make that technology worthless. The alien prisoners revealed more. Their empire had conquered dozens of worlds using their superior energy weapons. No civilization had ever developed a defense against them, until now. They had grown complacent, never considering that their greatest strength could become their greatest weakness. What happens now? Tom asked, watching crews clean up debris from the brief battle. Walker looked at data streaming in from around the world. The shield had performed better than anyone expected. In some places, it had even grown stronger after absorbing alien weapon fire. Now, Walker said, we show them that humanity isn't just good at defending itself. We're going to take the fight to them. He pointed to readings from the captured alien weapons. Their entire empire depends on technology we've just rendered obsolete. They'll have to adapt or fall. As night fell, people emerged from their shelters to find their cities untouched, protected by humanity's greatest mistake, turned into its greatest defense. The stars above, once a source of terror, now beckoned with possibility. Earth had not just survived. It had revealed itself as a force to be reckoned with among the stars. News of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy faster than light. Within days, alien diplomats from dozens of civilizations arrived, not to threaten, but to negotiate. Each brought tales of the Star Empire's oppression through superior firepower, and each wanted Walker's shield. In a converted conference center, Walker met with representatives from 17 different species. Some had tentacles, others multiple eyes, but all shared the same look of desperate hope. The Star Empire has dominated our worlds for centuries, a blue-skinned diplomat explained. They claimed their energy weapons made them invincible, but you proved them wrong. Walker studied the alien visitors. Your people have technologies we don't, yet none of you developed this defense. We focused on matching their weapons, another diplomat replied, always trying to create stronger energy beams. None of us thought to make them useless instead. Meanwhile, in his laboratory, Walker's team made another breakthrough. They discovered that when Walker's shield absorbed energy weapons, it didn't just disperse the energy. It could store and redirect it. Look at this, Tom demonstrated, firing a captured alien weapon at a shielded panel. The shield glowed briefly, then released the energy in a controlled burst. We can turn their own weapons against them. Military leaders immediately saw the potential. Not only was Earth protected from energy weapons, but they could now use enemy attacks to power their own defenses. It was like turning a bullet into a boomerang. But the Star Empire wasn't finished. Their spies infiltrated research facilities, trying to steal the secret of Walker's shield. They failed to realize that the real secret wasn't in the formula. It was in understanding how to control the material's unpredictable nature. They keep trying to stabilize it, Walker explained to his security team after another attempted theft. But the instability is what makes it work. They're so focused on control that they can't see the power of chaos. Earth's leaders faced a difficult decision. Many alien civilizations offered tremendous rewards for the shield technology. Some promised advanced spacecraft. Others offered medical breakthroughs or faster-than-light travel secrets. Walker advised caution. We should help those oppressed by the Star Empire, he told the United Nations. But we need to be careful. This technology could be misused. The solution came from an unexpected source. A young diplomat suggested creating an alliance. Earth would share Walker's shield with worlds that pledged to use it only for defense. Together, they would stand against the Star Empire's aggression. The defensive alliance was born. Earth began teaching other worlds how to produce and use Walker's shield. Each member contributed their own insights, improving the technology further. The Star Empire is losing control of 3 sectors, intelligence reported. Their energy weapons are useless against protected worlds, and their economy is collapsing. They built everything around weapons that no longer work. Walker watched from his lab as ships from allied worlds arrived to learn Earth's techniques. Humans worked alongside aliens, sharing knowledge and building trust. What started as a defense against invasion had become a force for galactic peace. We've received another distress call, Tom announced one morning. a mining colony at the edge of Empire space. They're asking for our help. Walker looked at the latest production figures. Earth now had enough shield material to protect a dozen worlds. The Empire's grip on power weakened daily as more planets gained the ability to resist their energy weapons. Tell them help is coming, Walker replied. And send them the basic shield formula. Let them start preparing while we get there. The Star Empire had thought their energy weapons made them invincible. They never imagined that their greatest strength would become meaningless, or that the primitive world they tried to conquer would lead a revolution in galactic warfare. As Walker watched ships load with shield material bound for distant worlds, he realized humanity had given the galaxy something more valuable than a defensive technology. They had shown that true strength comes not from having the most powerful weapons, but from finding unexpected solutions to seemingly impossible problems. The stars had once brought terror. Now they brought hope, carried on ships protected by humanity's greatest mistake turned miracle. The massive Earth fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Star Empire territory. Each ship gleamed with the subtle shimmer of Walker's shield, a sight that now struck fear into the hearts of Imperial forces. Admiral Pete stood on the bridge of the flagship Humanity, watching as hundreds of Allied vessels took formation around Earth's ships. The fleet represented 20 different species, all united against the Empire's tyranny. Enemy ships detected, the sensor officer reported. They're charging weapon systems. Let them waste their energy, Pete replied calmly. The Imperial fleet opened fire, their purple energy beams splashing harmlessly against Walker's shield. The combined fleet didn't even bother to dodge. Walker watched the battle from his new mobile laboratory aboard the Humanity. His latest version of the shield didn't just absorb energy weapons. It redirected their power to the ship's systems, turning each attack into free fuel. Their entire battle strategy is falling apart, Tom observed, monitoring energy readings. They keep increasing weapon power, thinking it will eventually break through. The Allied fleet's response was devastating. Conventional missiles, railguns, and kinetic weapons tore through the Imperial ship's defenses. The Empire had forgotten how to defend against physical attacks, relying too heavily on their now useless energy weapons. Second Imperial fleet incoming, communications announced. They're using projectile weapons. Walker smiled. They're learning, but too late. The shield had been improved to handle physical impacts, almost as well as energy weapons. The Imperial shells bounced off harmlessly. The battle turned into a rout. Imperial ships either fled or surrendered. Their mighty fleets, terror of the galaxy for centuries, crumbled before the combined might of the Allied forces protected by humanity's invention. Planet after planet fell, or rather, rose up. As the Allied fleet approached each world, local populations rebelled against their Imperial overlords. Walker's shield had shown them that resistance was possible. We've taken their primary shipyard, Pete reported to Earth Command. Their workers are already converting the facility to produce shielded ships for the Alliance. But the true victory came in an unexpected form. On a captured Imperial world, Walker's team discovered something remarkable. The Empire's energy weapon technology, when combined with the shield's energy-absorbing properties, created an entirely new power source. It's perfect, Walker explained to Allied scientists. Their weapons can now power cities instead of destroying them. We're not just defeating the Empire, we're transforming it. The Imperial Palace, a massive structure on their throne world, fell without a single shot fired. Its energy shields, once thought impenetrable, meant nothing against troops protected by Walker's shield. The Emperor, found hiding in a bunker, surrendered unconditionally. You've done more than defeat us, the Emperor told Walker during the surrender ceremony. You've shown us our greatest mistake, believing that destructive power equals strength. The Allied fleet moved methodically through Imperial space, liberating worlds and converting energy weapons into power plants. Former Imperial citizens learned to create and use Walker's shield, transforming their society from one based on destruction to one focused on protection and power generation. Look at these readings. Tom showed Walker data from a converted Imperial city. Their weapon systems generated enough power to run everything for a year. We're not just winning the war. We're solving their energy crisis. Walker watched from the humanities observation deck as another Imperial world joined the Alliance. The Empire had spent centuries developing the perfect weapons, only to have them turned into the perfect power source by their intended victims. Ready to head to the next system? Pete asked, joining him at the window. Walker nodded, studying the stars ahead. The galaxies changing. The Empire thought energy weapons made them invincible. Instead, those same weapons became the key to their transformation. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying humanity's gift of peace through defense. What started as a desperate measure against invasion had become a revolution in how civilizations viewed power itself. Behind them, former Imperial worlds glowed with light powered by converted weapons, protected by shields born from a manufacturing mistake on a planet they had once thought primitive. It was the ultimate irony. The Empire's greatest strength had become the foundation of a more peaceful galaxy. 5 years after the first alien contact, Earth had changed beyond recognition. Skyscrapers shimmered with permanent Walker's shield coating, while vehicles hummed quietly on power derived from converted energy weapons. The very technology meant to destroy humanity now lit its cities. Walker stood at the podium in Stockholm, facing an audience that included humans and aliens alike. The Nobel Prize ceremony had been expanded to include representatives from 50 different worlds, all beneficiaries of his accidental discovery. The greatest breakthroughs, Walker began his speech, often come from our mistakes. 5 years ago, we thought we had failed to create a stable material. That failure saved not just Earth, but countless worlds. In orbit above, ships from across the galaxy docked at Earth's new space station. Each vessel bore the distinctive shimmer of Walker's shield, now a symbol of peaceful cooperation rather than defensive necessity. Tom, now heading his own research division, monitored the latest improvements to the shield technology. We're receiving data from the Andromeda research team, he told Walker after the ceremony. They've found a way to use the shield for atmospheric terraforming. The former Star Empire worlds had undergone the most dramatic transformation. Their mighty weapons had been converted into power plants, providing clean energy to billions. Their military academies now taught shield maintenance instead of energy weapon tactics. Look at these statistics, a former Imperial scientist shared her screen with Walker. Infant mortality down 80%, education up 60%, poverty reduced by 70%, all because we're using our technology to protect and power rather than destroy. The Defensive Alliance had evolved into something greater. Now called the Galactic Cooperative, it focused on sharing knowledge and resources. Earth, once considered a primitive backwater, had become a center of innovation and diplomatic leadership. We've confirmed another 30 systems requesting membership, and aid reported during a council meeting. They're particularly interested in the medical applications of shield technology. Walker's team had discovered that modified versions of the shield could protect living tissue from disease and injury. Hospitals across the galaxy now used it in treatment chambers, while emergency responders wore suits that made them nearly invulnerable to harm. Remember when they thought we were primitives? Pete, now retired from the fleet, asked Walker as they watched ships arrive for the anniversary celebration. Now they come to us to learn. The greatest change wasn't in technology, but in thinking. The galaxy had learned that true advancement came not from developing better ways to destroy, but from finding unexpected uses for existing knowledge. The shield material is evolving, Walker noted, studying recent data. It's becoming more efficient with each generation, almost as if it's learning from every attack it absorbs. In universities across Earth and allied worlds, students studied what became known as the Walker Principle, the idea that weakness could become strength, and that mistakes often held hidden possibilities. The former emperor, now a professor of history, often lectured about the Empire's fundamental error. We thought power came from the ability to destroy. He told his students, Earth showed us that true power lies in the ability to protect, to transform, to turn enemy weapons into sources of life. At the ceremony's end, Walker received more than just the Nobel Prize. Representatives from thousands of worlds presented him with the highest honors their civilizations could bestow. But the recognition that moved him most came from a child. A young alien girl, her species once enslaved by the Empire, approached him with a simple drawing. It showed her world before and after Walker's shield, first dark and frightened, then bright and hopeful. "You didn't just give us protection," she said in carefully practiced English. "You gave us a future." Walker looked out at the gathered beings from across the galaxy. Former enemies sat together, sharing ideas instead of exchanging fire. Power once used for destruction now lit homes and powered hospitals. "We stand at the beginning," he concluded his Nobel speech, "of an age where our greatest fears can become our greatest strengths, where mistakes lead to miracles, and where the power to destroy can be transformed into the power to create." The audience rose in standing ovation, their applause echoing through a hall that glowed with converted energy weapon power, protected by a shield born from a laboratory accident on a planet that had refused to submit. Humanity had given the galaxy more than a defense against energy weapons. They had shown that true strength lies not in the power to destroy, but in the wisdom to transform destruction into creation.